You probably want to know, how is child support calculated? It's important to keep in mind that if you don't have primary custody of your children, you're probably going to be paying child support to somebody. It may be a parent that you share joint custody with, but you make more money. It may be a parent who has primary custody or sole custody of your children, or it may be a grandparent or a friend or DHR. If you don't have primary custody of your children, you're probably going to be paying child support. So you need to know, how is it calculated? The state of Alabama has what we call the Child Support Guidelines that is under Rule 32 that takes your income and the other parent's income. And when you get those two incomes together, it's going to come up with a total figure. And let's say you earn $2,000 a month, they earn $4,000 a month. So you have a combined family income of $6,000. You're going to take the combined family income, and the state of Alabama, in its great wisdom, has a formula that says, okay, for this number of children at this family income level, this is the amount of child support it takes to support these children. So let's say you have one child, and again, just for round figures, if you have a $6,000 family income, and let's say that the child support guidelines say you should pay $600 a month to support that child. Well, if you have $2,000, they have $4,000, you have a third of that family income. So that means if the state says it takes $600 a month to support this child, your 1/3 of that figure, $200, would be your child support amount. Now, there are two other things that can play into that besides just family income. You're going to take into account any work-related child care for the children, and also whether or not you provide health insurance. If the children are on Medicaid, then there's no cost to you. And so that would be nothing there. Or if you don't provide health insurance for the children, then that wouldn't come into play. But health insurance and work-related child care can both play into the child support figures. Those both could increase what we call the basic obligation for the children. So it's kind of complicated, but if you really break it down to the nuts and bolts, it's going to take your income and the other parent's income. You get one total figure. And then your portion of that total basic support obligation is going to be your child support figure. Our office can help you figure out exactly what yours would be. It's going to be important to know, or at least have a reasonable estimate of what the other parent's income is also, in order to really give you a good picture of that. But overall, it's just going to be a simple formula. Does the judge have any discretion over how much you're going to pay? Very little. Our judges in Alabama have a lot of power. They can do all kinds of things, but they're pretty much bound to the child support guidelines unless there's a really legitimate or good reason for them to deviate or change from that child support guideline. You're probably going to be paying right in line with the child support guidelines. If you've been ordered to pay child support and you've had a change of income, you probably wonder, can my child support be modified? Or maybe you've started to earn more income and you're nervous that your child support can be modified. The fact is, yes, child support can be modified at any time up till the child turns 19. Now, we don't have any longer what we call post-minority support, so you can't be required to pay child support for a child who's over 19, but until that child is 19, your child support can always be modified. Typically speaking, if there's going to be more than a 10% change up or down, then it's going to be modified. If you have a DHR enforced child support case, doesn't mean DHR has your children, but if the child support is going through the state of Alabama, then they typically will have checks every 3 years or so to see if income has changed and if child support should be modified. Yes, child support can be modified. Will it be? It depends on the circumstances. What happens if you miss a child support payment? That can be a really serious issue in Alabama because, as you may know, sitting in the county jail can be one of the consequences for missing child support payments. Are you going to go to jail because you missed one child support payment? Probably not. Does it start to build a hole that you're going to have a hard time getting out of when you do start missing child support payments? For sure. Every child support payment you miss will build what's called an arrearage, or back support amount that you're going to owe at some point. If you have already accumulated a back support amount, then you need to get that fixed as soon as possible. And I don't mean pay it all, because you may have thousands of dollars that you owe in back support. Here's what you do. We need to file a petition to establish a back support judgment, so that no longer can the other parent go just get a non-support warrant. Now, not in every county, but in many counties in Alabama, if you are behind on your child support, the receiving party, whether it's a grandparent or the other parent or whomever it is, that receiving party can go up and go to the clerk's office in their county and file for what's called a non-support warrant, which means you'll get arrested for non-payment of child support without ever even seeing a judge. They'll put you in jail for not paying your child support. And so if you miss payments, it's very important to either get it caught up as quickly as you can, or if you owe a large amount, to be the one who goes to the court and says, I'm behind on my child support. I need to get a judgment established against me for that whole amount. that I can then be ordered to pay a certain amount of. Because let's say if you owe $10,000 in back support, it's probably going to be hard for you to pay that at one time. But if you get a $10,000 judgment against you that you can start paying toward, and then you ask the judge to order you to pay $100 extra each month on top of your current support, that's manageable. You don't want to ignore it, because child support, like most any other problem in life, doesn't get better if you ignore the problem. You need to take proactive action and get on top of this problem before it gets on top of you. If you have custody of a child and one of their parents or both of their parents are ordered to pay child support to you, what do you do if they stop paying? Here's the plan. You need to file an action to enforce the child support. You already have an order of the court that requires them to pay. We need to file a petition for contempt of court and ask that they be held in contempt and punished for not paying child support. And punishment for not paying child support can be a range of options. It can be a judgment that they have to pay toward, or it could even be incarceration in your local county jail. You'd think that'd be a pretty big incentive for somebody to pay their child support. And so there are enforcement options available to you. If you're not receiving child support, keep in mind, it's not just owed to you. In fact, legally speaking, it's not at all owed to you, even if you're the parent or the receiving party. Child support is an obligation to that child. And so if you have custody of a child and the other parent is not paying support, you've really got a duty for that child to do whatever you need to enforce that child support obligation. The other parent owes that amount. It costs a lot of money to raise children. You got to pay for school. You got to pay for food. You got to pay for clothing. You even have to pay to keep the lights on. You need to make sure you enforce a child support obligation, and that can happen through appropriate court action. A lot of people contact my office and say, the other parent that I'm paying child support to is not using my money for those children. They won't give me receipts. I know they're just paying their bills with it. They might even be just going gambling in Biloxi with my money that I've spent for child support. What can I do? Is there something I can do to make them give me receipts? The answer is, except in extreme circumstances, probably not. It costs a lot of money to support children. You got to pay all the bills to keep the house running. Child support is not just to take the kids to the park. Child support is not just to buy Pokemon cards or video games or a new doll. It's not just to be spent on items just for the child to enjoy alone. It's to make sure the child is taken care of. And that can include anything from groceries. It can be used on vacation if they want to, because it's going into the family income for the receiving party. And so if you think the other parent has to provide receipts for you, that's not correct. We got to make sure that you know that child support is going into that family budget to provide for those children. And so if you are being asked to provide receipts for everything you're spending the other parent's money on, it's not the other parent's money. It's your children's money that comes to them through child support, and you are able to use that money without having to really account to them for anything unless you're abusing it in a terrible way. If you share true joint custody with the other parent of your child, you may think, hey, we have equal amounts of time. Surely there's no reason that I should have to pay child support. Sure, I make a lot more than the other parent does, but why should I pay any money if we have equal amounts of time? Well, for a long time in Alabama, that was pretty much the case. In 2023, we had a brand new joint custody child support statute that came into place and really has changed a lot of the things. So even if you share true joint custody and have equal time with your children from the other parent, you could still be required to pay child support. There's a formula that we go by, and our office can help you determine if and how much you would be paying if that occurs. But the truth is, you got to remember, you may still be required to pay child support even if you share equal time with the other parent. It's a brand new law, but it's one that we can work through with you and help you understand, are you going to have to pay? And if so, how much? Because it could be that even though you have joint custody, the other parent would be paying you. If they make more than you do, there's a strong chance that if they make more than you do, or if you provide all the health insurance or various other factors that could come into play, that they may be required to pay you child support, even if you have true joint custody with the other parent. If you have any questions about child support, reach out to our office right now.